at this kind of level, it means that you can store that as a system preset. Look at that, all this, it stores this system EQ, output EQ, output uh, levels as well. And you'll notice there's a delay matrix, which we'll get to in a minute. On every output, there's also just 40 milliseconds of delay that allows you to, once you've set up all your clever TiMax delay imaging, you can, if you want to, just try a little bit of delay on the sub bass or on the main system or the front fills, just to add a little bit extra to the system if you need to. But by doing any editing, you'll see this throughout the software. Anytime I edit something, it will flash to tell me I've edited it. For example, you see these 4 vocal mics that we have here. Well, if I want to store them in a snapshot, like on a mixing desk, so I bring 4 faders up, I bring put some EQ on them, that kind of thing. What I can do is I can go to this cue here, and I can call it. I've right-clicked on that, by the way, to do that. Right-click on there, mic 1 to 4 on. So that's now. I've deleted it. Sorry, new cue. You'll notice when I number the cue, it reshuffles it in the list. There's 1 to 4 on. So that's now in the list as that cue. But what I want to do is I want to edit the snapshot in it. Can you see up here it says snapshot? So if I click on there, I can click on these 4 channels, and whilst they're highlighted, I can go right, select inputs 1 to 4. Oh, stupid software. Selected inputs, and then I can say I want to store the input fader and the input EQ in there, and I want it to fade in over half a second because I want a nice sort of cabaret style thing, you know. So, so I can put a fade in like that, and then I could make take those faders down like this, and I could go to see, it tells me that I've edited that cue, and I know that, but if I hit that cue again, it brings those back in. If I take them out, I can then recall this cue and go snapshot those 4 channels again. And you'll notice that I can then have it take those same settings. I just want the faders to come out now. And so now what I've done is I've got those cues, that will make the faders come off. So that's mics off. So this is very conventional DSP programming, really. You know, it looks like normal stuff, you know, but it shows that you can do the simple housekeeping kind of show management stuff in here as well. So it's very common to put a top of show cue, which just brings up all of the input faders, and then your mixing desk does the mixing, for example, you know. So that's snapshots, and you'll just see in there, you know, if I do an edit in a snapshot, you can see if I do decide to change the mix slightly, it will remind me that I've done it, and I can go into the snapshot and I can either remove it or I can update it, or I can just recall it if I want to and not. Important thing about this system preset one is that when you open a show file, when you go open show like this, it will load this system preset. So it's a really good idea when you start a show to actually make yourself a system preset, because it means that the thing, you've got a start point for the system at the beginning of, you know, loading a show. So there's another clever thing here you'll notice that we haven't looked at, and that is how do I get sound from there to there? Well, if I open up the matrix, if you look, if I click on any input and I go to any out, highlights a little box here, and it says sound from that input to that output, just put a number in there like that, and it means sound will come out, because that's actually pushed the fader up in that row of matrix. You can see it doing it others here. Look, if I show you. So this is a row of the matrix. So what happens if I want a sound come out of what speakers, if you like? And if I go to speak this first radio mic here, and I say, right, I want to position that in kind of somewhere in the center, I'll push up sound going to speakers number 2 and 3 like that. And I want to use a bit of speakers, these outside ones, to reinforce it, but use a bit of delay. You see here, I can push delay up. This is a delay fader, this one. This is level. So like the matrix pots that you get on a desk, but this is delay. And this is the secret of TiMax, that it has these delay matrix capabilities. And you'll see these delays later on when we use them in a more clever way in the pan space. They can be controlled via the object-based system, so that we can do delay-based live panning, either for tracking or vocals and also for effects. So this will give me at each of the matrix points 1 second of delay. Actually, you see 999 seconds there. So just as a trick, if I want to put 20 milliseconds on there, it's quite hard because it's a very short travel. So what I can do is I touch the bottom of the fader, I get a fine adjustment. You see that? If I get the top of the fader, I get a coarse adjustment. So that's just a little kind of programming trick, really. So you get it in close, and then you can fine tune it. What I can also do, like on a spreadsheet, I can highlight both of those and I can put them both at the same, like that. Likewise with the volume, you know. So I can then store that if I wanted to in this queue here. I can edit this and I could say matrix row image, matrix, store that as something, you know, in that cross point. But if I have to then copy that onto that mic and that mic, I've got to take all these numbers and remember what they are and drag them across to here. So what I can do instead is I can right click on this one here. And this is the most important thing to understand about what TiMax uses, it, as well as having input objects, which are the usual things that you see, tracks off a tape or microphones on a stage. This has output objects. And the output objects are exactly what you can see on the screen. They are a set of routing, level and delay instructions, and it could be to up to 64 speakers. And it basically allows you to, basically store a little kind of snapshot of, you see what I've drawn on there, and put it on other channels. So what I do is I right click on here and I add a new image definition, and you see it's taken that and it's put it in a little box. And when I hit OK and I open up here, image, you'll see it's in there in that library there. And if I go in there and say that could be, we'll call that Vox Center, for example, like that. Clever thing is I can come out here now and drop that into there, and you see I can drop it anywhere I like. And I've basically got a little kind of snapshot really of that routing. So it's a very powerful thing, both as a basic routing object like we can use here, and then of course I can go in and I can select all those 4 channels. It's remembered what I'd done before, then I can store that. And now when we clear this, actually I'll clear them down. When we clear them, when I recall this, now instead of just recalling routing, it will recall image definitions. Same thing, it's still numbers and fader positions in the matrix, but it's recalling them as a little kind of packet of information. So the reason I show you this is that it's quite important to understand this is all that TiMax does, is it makes these things in the pan space. These are how we do our object-based capability, but you can use them manually. So for example, if you have a narrator, you know, a commentator, you can go to this fader here where he is. You can click on here, by the way, and call him narrator like that. This could be called mic 1, mic 2, mic 3, mic 4. And by the way, if you look over here, you can import your labels from a CSV file. So all of this writing on here, like this one will be left, center, sorry, wrong one, left, center, right, center, right, sub, etc. These can be imported from your patch list that you've already got on a spreadsheet for the show. I'll just do these first couple here, and then surround one. The reason I'm doing this is you'll see in a minute, they're very useful to have because that the rest of the software is going to find these when I want to do programming elsewhere, and it's useful to know what each channel is. So those can be imported from and I'll save that. And you can see here, if I go to here, you see this import from show file. I can go to another show file and I can import, and it's the same one, but I can import various of these things in from other show files. So you can chop and change between this sort of stuff between show files. So that's the basic operation of this part of it. It's a matrix, input, output, matrix in between, and you can shut that down, program that in just numbers. But it's very useful. You can also do it with this narrator. So I was going to say, we can just go to here and here and just put in 0, 0, 0, and he's now coming out of every output. And we could, if we wanted to, restore that as a image definition, but it's not the kind of thing that you need an image definition for. It's just routing. So we could, now he's coming out of every output always, all the time, sort of thing. So that's basically how that sort of thing works. But the clever bit is where you get to here, you can start using it in a more of an object-based way. So you'll see these various things come into play here. What you start with here is a venue, and you import an image of your venue. So let's just see if I can find one, for example. This one here is my trade show booth that you saw before. So I just go to my computer, open a picture, put it in there like that. There it is. And actually, it's going to come in normally looking like that, probably, or like that. But you can invert it if you want. I've removed it instead. Let's try that again. And what we want to do is we want to pick an image which has at least one dimension on it. It doesn't matter where it is, but we want to know a dimension. So in this one, I happen to know that from there to there was 4 meters because it was a trade show booth, right? In your case, it will be 6 across and 10 down. So I just go over to here and put 4 meters in there, and you see that it now makes that into 4 meter wide squares, you see? And the important thing is this here can go anywhere you like. If I've got that dimension and I know it's 2 meters, I can use that. The only time it's important where that 0 reference goes is if you're using a tracking system. The tracking system also has a 0 reference. Obviously, we have to have an XYZ coordinate system to tell the system where it is. Then we have to match this 0 datum point for the TiMax Sound Hub to the one in the tracking, so that the tracking data knows what delay, tells the TiMax to move the right delay times around, for that. So that's all you're doing here, really. You can make the margins bigger if you want to see more space around it, which we might do because we'll get there in the end. And you can change that to be inverted if you prefer. And there's also a transparency thing, which comes in useful once you get later on down the show programming. You find that you gets very busy on the screen, so you just can back this off a bit, So having done this, we save that in the show, and we go to our speaker layer. And here what we're going to do is start putting the system together. So this is not that unfamiliar to most people. It's a similar sort of thing that you'll see on other products, Luckily, if you put the right drawing in, it's got speakers actually drawn on it. But if not, what we do here is we decide we're going to have some front speakers and we're going to have some front fills and some surrounds and some subs. So what we go to here is we go and give them names here. So we'll just go main, and I'll just say, well, they look like that and they're that size. And we're going to make them kind of that color. And then we're going to have new type sub. We're going to make that little logo info, that thing there. We're going to make it that color, and then we're going to put new type front fill. You won't get this on a trade show booth normally, but I'm going to make those little things there. Make those sort of that color, and then my surrounds, new type. You can decide any time when you want to do this, that you don't have to decide at the beginning. I'll make those little ones like that. We'll come down to here and call those surrounds. So you can set these all later. But now when I go to the main, I want to just put them on the screen here. You remember that we gave them names before, so I'll just go to here, and you see there are all my output channels. So it's why I named them, because it means now it's very quick for me to go like this, put a speaker on there like that, on like that, on like that, on like that. So these are TiMax outputs basically appearing on the screen. We point the speaker. These are the targets. We put those roughly in a sensible position. They're very important that they're not taken as literally, oh, they all go in the same place, so I'll point them all in the same. We're going to use these later on to help us do the imaging calculation. And if I don't like that color, I can go in there and I can actually change it up to a sort of live to a slightly different color, and it makes it easier to see. So having done those and positioned them correctly, what you'll notice is that it's filling in their X, Y, Z position here. I'll show you that again. If I move this one, for example, you can see it moving there, but I have to tell it the height. So if I just do that and go in there and say it's about 2.5 meters. And then this down here is we call it the reference, the target. So we say, well, it's roughly going to be people sitting down. So we'll highlight all those and say it's about 1.2 meters. So now we're just beginning to get the thing in the right sort of way. So if I then go and put a sub on there, that's going to look like this. And I made that. And you'll notice that I can go in, when I do this edit, I can put in a dispersion display. So I can make that look very wide as a sub would. And the others I can make up to 100 or 90 degrees sort of thing. Those probably would be, by editing that there, maybe they're 100. Now, this dispersion characteristic does not influence any calculations like it would in ease or something. It's purely just for visual benefit, For example, the dispersion display, this here, you can turn that down or you can have it really big. It's just really to show you, oh yeah, those are my surrounds, those are my mains, those are my my subs and stuff like that. And so if I then go to pick off the front fills, and just because it's getting a bit crowded here, you see here hide other types. I can switch those off and then just put the front fills on like this. And these will put in really close like that. So I'm doing a kind of basic theatre show type setup for you, really. And then we'll put in some surrounds, which were, I didn't give them a name. We wanted to call them surrounds. And so these will have, well, how many surrounds did we have? We had probably 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll notice it points them all down the screen. Of course, I can just take those and move them now to point them roughly where they're going. And this is just a simple thing to do at the beginning of the show, and at the beginning of the setup, and you don't ever need to really change this. Those are pointing that way, so if I just do that, they're pointing in the right sort of direction. So you can choose. You notice these all need to have heights as well. So if I highlight that, it's copied the one I had before, luckily. So it's cleverly helped us. I could probably make those 100 as well, because they're more likely to be. And you've installed your sound system and you save that, and that's done. And the reason that they're divided into all these different types of category is because when we come to do the spatial programming, we're going to use different speakers for different things. It's going to become more logical. But if you think about it, if I want to make images up here on a stage, say we put a virtual stage here to put a band on a mix on there or something, I'm not likely to use these two speakers at the back to help reinforce it, but I will use these ones here. So I can select which speakers go into which spatial layers, spatial collections. And then what happens when we do program the actual show with doing the actual panning stuff and spatialization, we can then create then also programming layers which have different selections of the imaging in, progressive transfer going on. But this all is very straightforward. This is empirical, simple stuff. Venue, dimension, speakers, position, and divide them up into different types. So there's nothing really creative going on here. It's just basically instructions to the box, you know. So then when we get to this one here, this is where we start getting creative. We start making decisions about where we want the sound to appear to come from. And do you remember this little thing that we saw here? This is called an image definition. You remember how we made that, right? We just put these faders up and stored it in this so we can put it on any channel. Well, the pan space does this for you automatically. So what you do is you in here, you say, well, what I'm going to want is, I'm going to want some stage images. So I'm going to call, same sort of thing, new type, stage. So this is now virtual, like virtual speakers. They're not really, but they're virtual images that we want the sound to come from. So that's that one there. So I put one there. I'll do it very, very, very trivially, like one there, one there, one there, one there, one there, one there. So these may seem look like objects, input object blobs to you, but these are our output routing blobs, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to ask TiMax, sorry, not Soundscape, to program the inside these objects, a bit like we did with this one here. We want it to create that to make the sound come from those positions on this virtual stage, where I'm going to either put microphones with people or instruments, or I can actually put playback tracks there. Because if I open one of those up, it may not be a surprise to you to see that inside is the same thing that we just looked at, but it's empty, right? So it's got level and delay to each output. So what I do now is I say, well, which speakers are going to be useful to me to use for this stage layer, stage image definition group type? And I think personally, it's going to be the main system. So if we go back to here, it's going to be those ones and those ones. And because it's a band, I want the sub in there as well. So what I do when I go back to here, I'll say, tell you what, calculate for me. Hi, Aldama. We're half an hour in, so I can't go back, I'm afraid. Calculate image definition, stage, and I'm going to just do the main ones for start with, and then the sub, and then the front fill. And I'm just going to ask it to fill those, calculate the numbers for those. And what it's going to do is it's going to look at where the images are, where the speakers are, and remember these targets for pointing at people in the audience. It's going to look at where they are and say, what delays do I need to put on those speakers to make the sound come from those places there? Hit calculate, and now you'll find that inside all these, they've all been populated with information. Now you can see that they're not all turned up full. They've all got a little bit of level gain shading in, and that's because during the calculation, if I go back to, hello? Someone said something? Sorry. If I go back to here and go back to the main, before I do the calculation, if I open this up, do you remember this box that we did all the pretty colors in? There are these numbers here, which I didn't mention before, but these are interesting because from I'm sure you read up on hopefully you read up and listened to the effects, this pass effect on the PowerPoint that I sent over. You know now that if I add delay to a speaker compared to a source, I can make it image to the source, or I can pan with delay. And so you can add in here the over delay that you want to use to make that happen. As you remember, we have 25 milliseconds to play with. We don't want to do the first 10 because it's comb filtering. We have 5 or 6 latency in the system. So if we put 8, it's going to get us into a clean over delay region that will give us enough scope before we get echoes to get imaging. But these other clever things here, if I turn this down to 0, this one, and do the calculation again, I'm just going to do the mains. Look what happens. All of these get turned up full blast. That's because it's not doing any level shading. Now, what we know when we look at that situation is someone sitting over here is going to need that. If they want to hear something there, this image can be quite loud, but when something's coming from over there, this image needs to be a bit quieter. And more important, when it's upstage, they're further away. So what we can do is we can do a bit of calculation for that, and we just put in a number that we kind of get used to these numbers as we go, actually. But if we put in something like 1 point, let's put 2 in there, for example, it comes up, defaults to 3. That's why you saw a bit of the effect. And then hit the calculation again, you'll see now that it will have done a little bit of level shading here like this. And I'd say that that needs a bit more level shading to do with what sort of angle that we're looking at them. So we have this other parameter where, depending on where you're, it doesn't just look at the distance, but it looks at the angle as well, particularly powerful for front fills. So if I go down to here again and I do this, calculate, hit the stage thing, main, and I add a little bit of dB per angle. So it looks at what the angle is and it adds a number of dBs per degree of angle. So if I put a little bit of 0.1 in there like that, you'll see that what will happen is for these mains, it will calculate that with a little bit of extra panning, right, to allow for the angle. So it's quite clever. It's level shading the way sound designers automatically do when they set up a system, but it's learned how to do it for you. Now the front fills, because you're sitting really close to the front fills, we normally do it quite extremely. Now, if you remember, I told you about these, when I go back to here, if I look at these on their own, these front fills, if you remember rightly, I told you that these here, the position of these affect the calculation that we were just doing here. If you look at this, if I put this close to the speaker, this is, imagine someone sitting in this lucky seat that we're programming for. Of course, it's got to work for everybody around them, but this is we call it the lucky seat, the reference. If you look at the angle between it's like sort of 20, 25 degrees. If you come out, the closer you come out, it gets to be less of an angle to get over to the other side of the stage. So the closer we put these in, more of an angle so as we get in closer. So it means that it will actually look at that parameter there, and I'll just get it up here again, and it will say, where is it? Multiply that 0.2 of a degree by 25 degrees by 0.2, and it will add 2.5 dBs, 12 dBs attenuation to it for that angle. So I'm just going to put this in and see what happens. So what you should see now is that on these front fills, it will have added quite extreme amount of delay offset, of angle. You can see on that angle there, right? See, so it's doing it's angular distance attenuation, angular attenuation as well as the kind of distance attenuation. So when you look at this thing here in this image depth calculation again, this one at the top here deals with what we call inverse square law, which is if the sound is coming from you further away, it will be attenuated quite heavily before it reaches you. And if the sound is coming at you, so the further away that the source gets, you get the sound drops by a number of dBs per doubling of distance, right? That's called the inverse square law. But we also know psychoacoustically that as sound gets further away from you at an angle, your brain doesn't localize to it so well. So we have to level shade to make the Haas effect still work, because the Haas effect, i.e. getting the delays right to image to a source, it only works within about an 8 to 10 dB window. So if the speaker is too loud, you won't localize to the source. So what we're trying to do is make sure, and this is really the power of this thing, it's compensating for the position of the sources on stage, position of the speakers, adjusting their levels to make sure that everybody in the room gets the localization. So it's compensating automatically for, in the rendering of the space, what where you're sitting, where the speakers are, and where the sources are. And although we're setting this up statically at the moment, you'll see that when we get to the next screen, which is this one here, it will do it dynamically as well for us. So having done all this stuff, the surrounds, it's especially important actually to use this angle, dB per angle thing, because you can probably appreciate if I do my surrounds using, and let me think what speakers would I put in there. Okay, so they would have, I want to add a new type called surrounds. So when I calculate the images for the surrounds, I'm going to want to put in there the main, not the front fills and the surrounds, but I'm going to want a lot of attenuation. If I put 0 in here like this, and 0 in here like this, what you'll see is that on all of those speakers, now don't forget, these are surround images. I've already got my stage band images for use separately. But for these surround images, I'm using some of those front speakers, not the fills, but just some of the front ones, and then the surrounds. I'll also add sub in as well. But if I do these now, you'll see that it will calculate them with actually, oh, I haven't put the surround, sorry, silly me, surround, I haven't put the images on there. Yeah, that's because I messed that up. The surrounds need to have to have images there. So I'm going new surround image there, new surround image there. And I want this to actually be centered on where the speaker is in this case. Whereas on stage there, I want them to be kind of centered on acoustic sources. So these surrounds, I'm going to put them at these surround images at exactly the same point as the loudspeaker, but just behind it. If you look, there's the speaker. I'm putting it just behind it there. And that's because the calculation is going to look at the speaker on axis and say that is a 0 degree. If I put this here, it'll see that as 180 degrees. And when I try and do the angular, apply that angle attenuation thing, it will basically make it turn it all down far too much. So that's important. When you put these, you make sure that they're behind, the images are behind the speaker for the calculations to work correctly. So if I go to here and go to the image depth calculation again, and I put the main and the surrounds in like this, and I'm deliberately doing this wrong to show you why we have this function. If I go to here and open this up, you'll see that it's got the fronts and the surrounds. There's little bits of delay down here to make the imaging work, but you know as well as I do that if they're all at the same level, we're not going to get surround out of this, right? So what we've done is we've put these speaker targets quite near to the speaker to make the angular thing work for us strongly. I'm looking at that one. So I can make the angle, dB per angle thing, attenuation, work hard for me. What I can do is I can go in now to here, go back to that calculation, and then for the main, I'll go and put, and the numbers you get used to for surrounds, 0.3 generally works pretty well, bit of over delay, and then for the surrounds, 0.3, and I should put some over delay in there, because that means that adjacent speakers that are contributing to the surround source will actually be delayed back to it. So we'll get a bit of delay panning as well as level panning. So if I do that there and say calculate, what we should find now is that they have, oh, I didn't do the front ones. Why is that? I did the fills full. I don't want fills in there. My mistake. So if I go to surrounds, oh, I know why, sorry. I didn't put any surround images at the front. So in my surround layer, of course, I want to have, I've got these wrong. So these need to be here, 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 and here. Now you see they look like they're on the stage, but they're not actually, they're different. I'm using them for a different thing. So I obviously need surrounds at the front as well as the sides. I'd forgotten to put them in. So put that there like that, put that there like that, then put that there like that. And now when I calculate those, make sure that they're all in the surrounds. Yes. Image F calculate main and surround. Now what we should find is that they're heavily attenuating. So you can see that mainly coming out of left, plus a few others, and then it's also coming out of that speaker as well, a little bit. And as I work my way around them, you'll see what we're doing. We're creating this level profile, but because, for example, this one here, because those speakers there, I've also got delay on them as well as level, they're actually not quite high actually, that level. I might do that a bit steeper. It means that that delay is making them sound like they're coming from there, but it gives you a much more intimate surround. As we push things around the room, you'll see that the speakers contributing to the others means that we're not just relying on that speaker for that surround image for people a long way away. But if I want to make that steeper, that imaging, I hit surround again, hit image left calculate, go into here, and if I make this at 0.4, you'll see it'll just level shade it more steeply. I'll leave these ones as they are for now. And you see it's push those down a bit more. So you can play with this very quickly, but you can have it ready to go as soon as you arrive at the venue. That's the great thing about it, really, that you can have it actually ready to run. So that all makes sense, I hope. There's another trick here with the surrounds. I'm going to put some sub in there, but because it's only in one place, I'm just going to put the same amount of sub into every surround. That means if I pan a helicopter or something around it, I'm going to hear some sub all the time, right? So people often ask, how do you program subs in TiMax? The answer is you add them into the image definitions, basically, because they become part of the actual image itself, you know? So to get the sub, the same level of sub in all those, so I do the surround thing, image def calculate, surround, go to sub, and when I hit calculate, you see down here, there's these various checkboxes. I'll go, don't calculate delays, doesn't make any sense. Set gains to a fixed level. I'm just going to put, for example, -5 sub in all of those. And now when I hit calculate, just to check that they're all in there again. You'll see that the sub should be is turned up to -5 in all of them. So what I need to do is then not write those. So surround 4. Okay. It's because I did all of them, so I messed them, did them all to here. The danger is I highlighted the others as well. So if I go back to here and recalculate that, they should be all right. Yeah. So that's now very quickly got those together. And you can imagine we could have 30 surrounds. This is a very quick way to work if you've got that many, that big a system. So that's all that going on there. There are other things here. These are just snap to grid, and you can create a bigger space around it, stuff like that. You'll get used to those things. But we're working our way up this workflow. At the moment, we have no sound coming out, but we have now got a template to make it all happen, right? So what I'm going to do now is go into what we might call programming the show. So if we go up to here, what you'll notice first is, do you remember the cues that we made up before? So this cue list appears on this screen up here. So it means that we are starting to actually see the makings of a show. You can see our image definitions have all appeared in here out here as well. So we're beginning to build this library of image definitions much quicker than doing it the manual way that we did it before. These have all been built by TiMax. So it's what's clever about it, really. And now when you get to this stage, you don't have to think about speakers and delays. You just think about the task, which is, where do I want the sound to come from? And very simply, if I want mic 1, and I'll show you this on the mixing desk here. So if we just highlight that and turn this up, let's just clear these down for a minute. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into here and I'm going to say update, so that now I've taken that routing out of the snapshot, because I don't want the mixer snapshot to actually do the routing. I want the pan space to do it, because I'm using a TiMax, and it's a much cooler way of doing it. The TiMax, because I've got tracking or I'm queuing it. So what I've got now is nothing panning. But if you look here, if I take one of those microphones onto the stage, like microphone 1, and I put it there, do you see what happens? Got these stage images that we did before, but now it's in the surrounds as well, you see as well. See the subs staying up? So this band ones, I broke the band ones. So let me just do the stage ones again. Image def calculate, stage, main, point 1 and 1. So this should be better now. Yes. So what you can see now in true object-based way is that as I move this around the stage, as you'd kind of expect, it's basically being moved around the speakers and turned up and down, which is kind of what it's designed to do, you see. And so, and I can also take, if I want to, I could make another cue here, and I can make cues in here, and you'll notice I can make this one into cue 1.5, mic 1 walk, like this. If I hit that now, that microphone is sitting there. You know what it does here, so I'm going to move this off the screen over to here. If I then click on that mic and do this with it, you can see, you can probably gather what's going to happen. What I'm doing is double clicking, right? It's just going to walk, it's just going to walk around the stage. And what you can't actually tell unless I show you is that it's done it at 1 second intervals. If you click on these little arrows, you see that 1 second intervals. And if I want to, I can make that bit slower by putting 2 in there. And now, as he walks, you'll see even though the screen looks the same, that goes a bit slower. And so I could bring mic 2 on and I could make it walk from here to here to here and to there like that. And they'll both walk around the stage. And I could also then make that one there a bit longer, like 3 seconds. And I'm winding it back now, and you'll see we can start sort of making it look like, oh, look, they're all going to meet in the middle at the same time, you know. Oh, no, not quite. Okay, all right. Actually, that should have been to there. But what's useful here is if I hadn't done that there, these, we call these pan nodes here, these things here. And as I've been drawing them on here, you'll notice that although that is 2 seconds, the length is still the same as that one, which is 1 second, because this is a spatial instruction, right? It doesn't know anything about time. It has no idea about time. But where do we see already something that knows about time is this place here, the timeline. And look what we've got here. Those nodes on there have appeared on this timeline. So if I open this up, this is a zoom control down here, by the way, and this is a zoom control here. What you'll see is that I could actually make that happen automatically very easily by actually going onto here and moving these around on here. So if I just do this, you'll see now that that's actually automatically made that match, because the timing is done on the timeline and the spatialization is done on the pan space screen. So this is a really powerful way of programming the thing. The combination of those 2 screens with that on it there is very interesting, you know, a very powerful part of time. This is more for sound effects programming, but I'm just showing it on these microphones because some people do program shows with microphones, especially if it's a repeatable show where everything happens the same every time you see it going on, you know. Now, just something to mention about this, when we get back to here, what you'll see is if I just get rid of mic 2, a minute. What I did there, by the way, was hide unselected channels, just because you can end up with lots of information on this screen. And if you want to just zero in on that one, you can do it very easily. You'll also notice the name of the character is on the top here, mic 1. So he's on there, and then I can hide those if they're getting in the way as well. So if I have this guy walking along the front of the stage, what you'll notice that's complicated is that there are images for the band stage here, and there are images for surround. So what's going to be happening here, if I get this out of the way, there's a little bit of confusion about what you see, that what it's meant to be following, because it's seeing these kind of images, which are very soft, but it's seeing these kind of images as well. And so therefore we want to be able really to isolate when we did this stuff here, the reason was we want to use them for different things, right? So when we're in this screen here. We want to really be able to isolate the microphone from, for example, the surround images, unless we want him to sound like he's coming from the surround. So what we do then is we go up to here. You see this all pan space. If I right click on here, we can create what's called a subspace, which is a layer, a layer. So if I go subspace like that, I could call this box stage. And you can see I could just put the stage on there. And now, lo and behold, that's only got those staged images on it, right? So if I then go to this microphone here and I right click on it, it says which space do you want to put it on? If I go onto there, and now I can't see any of those surround images, you see, and now it's much cleaner. The panning that it's going to do is much cleaner across the stage images, you see. So this is really important to be able to isolate your effects and your band, your vocals from, for example, your vocals from your orchestra, your band images. You might have band images that look exactly like these because your orchestra is spread across the stage, and you'll have vocal images that are the same. The big difference is the band has got sub bass in it and the vocals has no sub. So you create different image sets for the band and for the vocals, which may do similar localizations, but you can change the level shading for the vocal one if you need more level shading. So this ability to make different types of image definition and then combine them in different ways on here is really kind of powerful. So now when we do that walking around, you know, we've got a lot more control of it just being on the stage sort of thing, you know. So the subspace is a very important part of this. That's called a subspace. Likewise, if I do some surround effects, I don't really want them to be heard by these band images, do I really? So I'm just going to create an effects space. I'm just put the surrounds on there. And so now that's only got surrounds on it. So if I come up here and I bring in, you know, we'll see the Harley Davidson later on. So I'll put Harley in there. If I bring in the Harley like this, and I bring it, start it there, and I pan it around the room, when it gets to here, it's only going to be seen by those images. So which is what I want. So I want to go very natural sort of pan around the room. But what I don't want is when it gets to here to have all these orchestra images there as well to kind of blur these images that I've created to deliberately look like surround, you know. So these pan space subspaces are very powerful, and you can start making them really, you know, as many as you like. For example, I did a show the other day where we had the band had speakers all around them, but the percussion were at the back. So we made some extra images for the percussion just with 3-4 dB more sub bass because they had big, very big drums there, you know, they bass drums. So we could just sort of make a quick couple of 2-3 images for that, and it means that you can separate them out from the rest. And of course, that Harley Davidson has appeared on the timeline like before, so we could do the panning of that. I'm going to show you that later. We can organize the panning of that like that as well, you know. So go back to here again. So this is quite an important part of the pan space game, and you can see here, you know, there's the basics and the different images on there, and the different images on there, and there are, yes, the reminder of the workflow. Venue, import a venue, import your speakers, create your image definitions, decide what you're going to do with the system, make it happen, and then do the calculations like we just showed you. When you do the calculations, think about the level shading, because if you want surrounds, you want heavy level shading. If you want orchestral, you might want subtle level shading. If you want surrounds that you want a more softer, like these surrounds are quite extreme. If I want them to be a bit more, a bit softer, I can flatten those out a bit by just going into the surround thing, doing the image definition calculation again. I'm taking this down to say 0.2, and you'll see that they'll be much more shallow then. Surround, calculate. So it's doing it a bit less extreme, you know, now. What's going on? There you go, it's doing a bit less extreme. Pardon me. These ones, the angles are quite big, so it's flattening them out quite a lot. When it sees those ones, they're long, lot of degrees away from these ones. So that's basically the idea. You save that as a show. Having made a show and given it a name, and this is the protocol, you then make an archive of that show. So you make show archive, and that will then create with the same name, but it's called a TMAR file. You have what you saw before was a TM2 file. This is a TMAR file, and it makes an archive of that show, which will include in it any of this image here and any of the audio. And just back to the audio quickly onto the timeline, if you haven't done that yet. I mentioned the Harley Davidson clip. If you look here, we've got a track with Harley on it. So let's make a Harley cue. So we're now in the timeline. If I go up to here, right click, you see the names of the cues are there. Look, and I can open them up. So you can get at this from different directions. If I right click on here, I can make a new cue called Harley like this. And it's down here. There's the Harley. See this? If I open this up, it opens up the hard disk of my TiMax with all the sounds on it. In fact, in my computer, it's opened up my files directory where all these sounds are. Now, if I look down here carefully, I should be able to find, well, it's actually H Harley mono there like that. So what I do is I drag that on to here. And this allows me to edit it and set loop points. You can play with that, but you just have to get that out of the way initially. And now you can move that there and you can zoom in and out on it so you can see what's going on. And we can go in and program our Harley. What I can tell you is, you see there, he starts the engine and he puts it in gear right here. So, so what I know is I can't have that moving until he puts it in gear. And then it revs build quite slowly. And so it grows slowly, and then it goes quite quickly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pan him around the room in the pan space here. Let's go to the Harley cue. Where is it? There it is. Select the Harley channel. Go on the effects layer here, because that makes sense. Double click around the room. Sorry, I don't know why it's done that. Let's take it off and start again. And then have him go out the back again, right? The nice thing about this is if the director says to you, can you make it a bit less near the front? You can pull this down like this and it makes it a bit more across the room. That kind of thing is quite useful to know. But the timing is still 1 second, right? Remember, it appeared on here at 1 second. So the first thing I do is I pick this all up and move it to where I know he puts it in gear. And now if I play that, it shouldn't move, right? Next one. Now, in this case, it's not moving, but what could have happened? It could be that somewhere further back down the show, this channel might have been routed somewhere. So the TiMax will see that routing and it will just route pan slowly from there to where he puts it in gear. And so it'll start moving whilst it shouldn't be. So what I can do is I can take that Command C if you're on a Mac, Command V, take a copy of that, put it down at the front like this. Then I know that the revs build quite slowly. So I'm going to go over to here. This is useful to know. You hit that pick tool there, and I'm just touching these. If I move that to there, then as the revs build slowly, it will take a long while to pan there, and then it goes a bit quicker, and then it goes a little bit quicker until it goes into the distance. I just want to zoom in on that just to see how much there is. So I now know that if I highlight that, I can just take those three there and stretch them out a bit like that. So what you'll see now is if we do this pan, we'll try and make this so you can see all of it. Put this up here. What you'll see is when we play this pan, it will stay stationary for the moment, but watch down here. When it gets to the second one, which is a copy of the first one, remember, it will start moving, and then it'll move quite slowly, quite slowly, quite slowly, quite slowly, and then it'll start moving fast. Immediately you go, that's a bit fake, stop, move that to there because it needs to move further then. Okay, let's go back to the beginning again. Or we can drop it in here because we've heard that bit. And then we can see it going, and now he'll start panning, and it's moving. It's going a bit further slowly, and then faster, and then faster. And even though that's a long way in the distance, when you hear it fade out, it's going fast. So very quick to program that. And the fact that that stays there is because when we copied it, can you see the little arrow there? If I zoom in on that, you'll see that there are actually two nodes there, just one on top of the other. It's a very powerful aspect of the thing. So your brains must be getting saturated. So I'm going to do the look at the show that we're going to send you with the TiMax. And the good news is that you just see me programming part of it. So I'm going to do a change so that I've got a different drawing in here that maybe looks a bit like your room, but it doesn't matter. I'll just make it look like a truss, and then we'll make the room. I think it's 6 meters by 10 meters, correct? Wide? Yes. Okay. So we'll do it like that. So if I just go to here and go open show, I can go open recent, and I can see the one that I had before, which is this one here. And you'll see here now is another show all ready to go. It happens to have the same pan space map because I put it on there, but it's got a whole lot more image definitions, and that's to run the things that I've got in the show. So let me just go through. Now you know how this works. I don't necessarily need to show you exactly how the software works, but I can show you how it's been used to make this show. So the first cue that we have is a walk-in piece for when your customers or whatever are walking in. By the way, you see these, I can float these off if I want to. So I can take that and lose this one here. So what we can do is we can play this one here, and you'll see now what's happening is it's playing an atmospheric track. For some reason, it hasn't loaded properly on here, but we'll make sure that it does. This is a sort of, it's a cave sequence with lots of dripping water and stuff. It's very good to run as an opening track, you know, for people to walk into. And I'll make sure that it works on your one. I'll test it properly. So that's what that's doing. You'll see here a cue where what's happening now? Just checking. There's something else I haven't shown you, but there's OSC here as well, which is this iPad operating it. So in this OSC window, which I can show you a bit later, that we can program OSC to control various functions in the TiMax. We might do that on another session. But if you look at some of these controls that I showed you before, for example, these, where's the mixer screen? It's down here somewhere. View, main window. If you look at these group controls that I had before down here, I've got faders on here for them on my iPad, so I'm controlling them from the iPad. I've got output channels for the front system and subs and stuff like that. So we can actually, you know, make that work for you as well. But also these cues are all on here. So if you look at the cue list that I had here, I can put that back where it was. I can play the various cues from here. So there's a stop cue that it will play. It should put mics on, mics, play this. Oh, why is it not playing? This should be playing. I'll make sure that works when we get to it, but something odd going on in view. Let's see. I'm not quite sure, but I'll find out. I think it's the wrong show. That's right. On the iPad, I've got the wrong show called up. Sorry. So we'll make that work for you. But you can get the idea. This can be made to work for this thing. But in here, so we've got a stop cue. What the stop cue will do is it will fade everything out, and it will unload all the audio. So that's what you're doing when you're talking to somebody. If you've got any of these playing, any audio playing, any orchestra or sound effects, if you hit the stop cue, it will just basically play fade out, fade out, fade out, fade out, fade out, stop audio, unload, and then that will clear the audio there. And that's done by, these are little various objects here, clear audio, stop audio, and then this one here is called a go follow-on cue. You look, and that tells it to go to here, and this has got a thing that clears everything clears any panning. Sorry, that's the sort of thing. That's what that does. So this is like your sort of stop everything, and it does a nice little fade out, that kind of thing. Then there's what we call intermezzo. Now, this is quite an impressive orchestra. If you look here, this is actually an orchestra sitting out, 60-piece orchestra with stereo reverbs, and they're sitting on their own layer, and then the reverbs have their own layer as well, which sit on these returns like this. Should be there. That should be there. I will tidy this up for you. And so what that does is that plays. You can see it on here. This phenomenal sort of, those are the reverbs at the bottom, multi-track piece of Grieg, and it shows people as they walk around how accurate the thing reproduces a multi-channel source, so an orchestra sort of thing. And so that's basically a very powerful thing as well. Then the next cue is to show people, well, it does it also with a more kind of conventional music. This is a soul band, no effects, no nothing. And in this one, when you play this one, sorry, wrong one. When you play this one, you'll see that we have, that's playing some thunder. It's got its own layer here, which is called Love Thing. Where is it? And that's the soul band, bass, guitar, drums, a few horns, keyboards, that kind of thing. And what we've done also is we've got this voice thing here where, and she's not actually rooted at the moment. See if this works. What we've got this set up so is that on the iPad, if I show you this, if you can see that, we have these panners, right? And I can set that up. I thought I had it on this, but I got the wrong show loaded up on the iPad. I'll make sure you get the right one. On the iPad, it basically allows you to move her voice across. And you see she's on her own, she can be on her own images, right, on there. Actually, she's not in this case, but why not? Let's have a look at this. Oh yeah, there they are. So if you look at her, she should be on stage voice. Yeah, she appears on her own image. I don't quite know why that's not there. I don't know what it is. Edit subspace. This needs to be more like this. That's it. So now she's basically on there. These guys are all on the band one. Love Thing like that. So when you switch to her, she just pans across the stage, you know. So we basically have her doing this kind of panning across the stage sort of thing. And it just means that you can make it sort of look a bit more like, you can demonstrate it, someone walking, as if you had a tracking system, really. So that's quite a good, and we'll make that work on the iPad as well. Can you see that panning those guys there as I do this here? So you can see that, yeah. So that's that one there. That cue's quite a laugh. And then here we have a couple of wake everybody up. This is I'll do this in the pan space. This is a Thunder cue, so that should play loud. And then there's a Harley Davidson cue, which is also not working right. Why is that? Oh, because it's not moving at the moment. So if you look at that now, that'll be panning around the space as it goes. These images aren't programmed right for what I've just done, so we'll check that out later on. And then there's a helicopter cue. This helicopter will pan around the space for you, and that's got its own surround and overhead. Now, even though we don't have overhead speakers, we put these special overhead zones in. This hasn't got images on it properly. Surround. These special overhead images, even though we haven't got speakers on there, we've got this strange thing going on where we've created a fake image where we've pretended that the speaker's there by making, if I show you these here. Sorry, the images. What I've done is I've put lots of long delays in these so that it makes it sound like there is sound is coming from overhead, when actually it isn't. And it means that when the thing pans over, the helicopter pans over and hovers, it sounds more realistic, like there's some real sort of overheads there. So there's that one as well. That's quite a good one. And then there's this is a what we call SFX pan, and this one has got is actually mapped as I do the this panning here. You see it's moving around on the iPad. Can you see that? So we can basically make that work as well. This is programmed for a bigger show, actually, this thing. So I'll make that work for you. And then as a sort of finale, we have a kind of electronic music track, which is this Grimes. It's actually, and this has got stuff going on everywhere. It's got the band sitting out in kind of 3D out in the space here. This is the one here. So lots of stereo samples, bass stereo, hi-hat stereo. And then also you see a few things kind of moving very slowly. But what happens later on in the song, where is it here? I bring them both up. You will see that over here, we have some panning effects on the backing vocals. So the backing vocals have got lots of effects on. And you'll see now, just here, there will be lots of effects start panning on the voices, because you can see them down here. And that's quite a good, just to show off it doing, very kind of crazy stuff, really. So I'll basically program this so that hopefully I'll give you a speaker design of 8 speakers, 4 across the front, 1 on each side and 2 at the back, and a sub at the front. So it's nice and easy to set up. And if you get the levels right, the same on all the speakers and the type of speakers, it will work really quite nicely, And then these ones will pan here as well, you'll see. I move that to there. You see it's also panning around there like that. So this basically, these are the backing vocals, and they sound very kind of floaty and angelic and stuff. So it can give you a good sort of effect. You play with this before your event, and you'll get used to what the sounds are, and you'll be able to figure out how they work, And then this last one here, this one actually doesn't have anything on it. Let's get rid of that one. This one here is another a walkout piece. So this is kind of got for a thing that I did in India with, this is all some very interesting electronic music pads and sound effects, reverse samples and stuff, and they move really well, Indian sort of sounding, This was actually an Yves Saint Laurent display in a museum fashion exhibition that they did in Bombay. So this is quite a good little kind of short when you're finished, thank you very much. Any questions? Or you can have a listen to this before you leave, and you can just turn it up on the group faders, and it just plays this kind of gentle sort of panning kind of effect. So this will get you through, with some explanations and conversation. You can run through it quickly in half an hour, or you can spread it out over an hour. It's up to you, really. I don't quite know what sort of time you intend to spend on it, but that's the show that I will give you, something a bit like that. And those cues are fairly straightforward. One to show the orchestra sounding really impressive and big and multi-channel. One to show a soul band sounding nicely placed in the room and move the girl's vocal around so you can hear her moving around. They can hear it happening. Then some very classic sound effects. And then that doesn't do anything. And then for a sort of a big finale, the Grimes, the electronic EDM track is very loud, kick drum and everything. And then the Yves Saint Laurent track here. So which ought to be really 34. So that's basically the idea, and that's probably more information than you can actually add to for now. We've done nearly an hour and a half. Do you have any questions, anybody? I'm back. Everybody got to sleep?
Not yet.
No.
Right. One of the things I'll just do as a finale for you, right? And I may have sent you this document, Berenice. You can tell me this, but I'm going to share my screen. One of the big questions you'll get asked is, one final thing is, what's the difference between TiMax and other spatial audio things? Do you remember this? Did I send you this, Berenice? I can't remember now. You did. So this is quite an important thing to have in your head. This is not for giving to customers. This is deliberately meant as our own in-house thing. And you don't learn it word for word, but as long as you understand the principle, it's meant to respectfully explain how TiMax is better than anybody else without telling you that anybody else is bad, because they're not. They work fine. There are benefits to Soundscape. There are benefits to Elisa, but there are superior aspects to TiMax that can do anything that those guys can do. And when it gets tricky, for example, these subspaces that I showed you here don't exist on any of those other things, and they are phenomenally powerful. When you start getting into complex shows, this show this little thing I'm showing you now, the Yves Saint Laurent, one TiMax was doing 7 different zones. So this show was running whilst there were 5 other shows running on the same TiMax box, which were 30 meters away, 40 meters away. It was in a big convention center, and they built this huge, beautiful kind of walk-through thing, with sort of sounds of parks and stuff in it, and birds and stuff. And you could walk through this, and TiMax was doing, in total, 2 TiMaxes doing 15 zones. So this is all explained in here, and it's quite well worth knowing, because you will be asked, because people always ask. So if you've seen it, then that's fine. But if you have any questions about that, don't hesitate to ask, because it's an obvious and very reasonable question for people to ask, is what is the difference between TiMax and your one and everybody else's? And the answer is, it's great that a lot of people are doing spatial audio, because it's a good thing to do, but there is to do it with price. Who's got any questions? Thank you for listening, by the way.
Questions? ¿Alguien tiene alguna pregunta? Anyone has any question here?
Many content creators use Pro Tools or Logic software. Can it be imported like a timeline, or it has to be track by track?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a very good question as well, and not the first time that we've had this conversation. We have a lot of immersive, what you call experiential market clients, and a lot of them do work in Pro Tools, like the film guys do. And we have actually, about 5 years ago, we did try and make a plug-in for Pro Tools that would control a TiMax external, but the panning that you saw on the timeline, that panning in the pan space, that was recorded, the control was recorded on a timeline in the Pro Tools. So it meant that you could be producing your content, you could send the audio would go out of Pro Tools into the TiMax and back. The Pro Tools on into the TiMax. Now, if you've already mixed it on in Pro Tools and you've recorded level shifts in it that have resulted from TiMax panning it like that, you can then take the individual tracks of your output mix onto TiMax as AIFFs, and that would be it. But if they're still source tracks, they're not the end mix tracks, you wouldn't have the panning on it and that kind of thing. So yeah, the answer is there isn't a direct plugin for Pro Tools at the moment, but it is something that we're looking at as an idea because it's quite a useful thing to have, either as a control plugin or as more long-term as an audio plugin. So yeah, it's not there at the moment, but the way people do it now is they honestly they'll go and program in TiMax the way like I've just shown you actually. You can play the Pro Tools back track by track live into it, but not load it into TiMax. It can do all of that panning and all of that level. I didn't show you, but on the that fade out, those fade outs has level automation you can have on the timeline. All that can be done on live tracks coming in from outside via Dante, not just tracks that are on the TiMax. It just happens to be helpful for some shows to have tracks on TiMax.
Okay. Okay, good.
¿Alguien más? Anyone else? ¿Nadie? ¿Preguntas? ¿Andrei?
No for now.
Great. Well, you sent me, you've just sent me a file. Sorry, were you going to ask me a question or something?
Yes.
No, it's so clear.
Okay.
No, it's so clear.
You sent me a project file just recently, I think. Is that a different one to the one that we did a design for already?
Yes.
Okay. How's the first one looking? That was in Costa Rica, am I right?
No, the first one was in for Xcaret. The first one that we got that you support us with, but this is like a small part of that. The files that we just sent you yesterday. It's for the main stage. I include some links of the videos of that stage. That is where the most important performance is happening. So we just got that information as well from them.
Is it the same site, Bernie? Same resort, as it were, or
It's like a theme park.
okay.
Divided in hotels and different natural areas that you can enjoy with. So this is the main stage that they have in all the resort. So there is a performance when they talk about different stages of the history in Mexico, and at the very end there is like an international flags performance, to because this is very important for all the tourists that comes every day to that place. So Xcaret is one of the most important, I think the most important and the most awarded theme park in Latin America.
Is that right?
So yeah, we have been really trying to get.
You should send the video of one of the shows so he can
I think that
understand.
I'm afraid I didn't open it. I have not had time. I saw it, but I haven't opened it. So I'll look at it and see. So you want the proposal for that as well, do you? Is that the idea?
Yes. Basically, they told us that they need to put that into their like their forecast, their budget.
Yeah.
So that's the reason they sent us the files for the main stage.
Okay, well, I'll do that maybe tomorrow. Is it quite urgent, do you think?
Thank you. Yes, quite.
Yeah,
And
always.
there is another coming. I don't remember if I include all the information for you because that is for a big resort group. They have 4 or 5, four very nice resorts in 4 different places in Mexico.
Yeah.
So one of them is they have been getting already a proposal from DMB,
Yeah, of course.
but basically they didn't got the support or that they wanted to. So basically they told me, I don't care about having everything, the pricing and everything. I don't want to deal with DMB in Mexico.
Shame.
Also they tried before to get in touch with the people from Acoustics, but it's very difficult to deal with them as well.
Really?
So basically we have a big opportunity because it's a very big resort group, and they are also planning to get like a local Cirque du Soleil performance.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very big investment.
And were they? Do you know that they were talking? They were talking to DMB and Acoustics about specifically immersive stuff. You know,
Yeah, immersive stuff.
so we
Yes.
don't have to break open that door. That door is open. So we just have to show them our version of it, which is great. So if I give you,
Exactly.
I sent you a drawing of a load of speakers pointing, and is that enough for you guys to add the right speakers to it? Because you know how big the space is, the dispersion. You know, it's not
Exactly.
highly scientific what I'm telling you. It's just if we get the speakers with the right power and the right voicing, and that TiMax will then work it out. You know, just enough to do the surround and the reverbs and cover the right areas and that kind of thing.
Yes.
So
Yes, that is a part that we can do.
great.
Mhm.
So if I'm giving you, let me know if I'm giving you enough or not giving you enough. But that was what I thought was give you the start point. So if I do the same with this other one you've sent me, which I'm afraid I didn't look at yet, but if I
Thank
look at that one and then I'll do the same thing. It's basically, you can see which file it is. It's a TiMax screen, and it's a good way of, good discipline for me to show you it coming from that direction, really,
Yes, of course.
because then we can program from there. No, it'd be great. It'd be great. Do they look like they're going to happen this year, maybe those, or
This
not really?
year, yeah, the one that for Vidanta is happening this year. So they told us that as soon as that we can start working on the proposal, they want to come to the Soundcheck Expo. I told them that it was not confirmed yet that we will be available to have the goods on time. But by the way, there is a very good opportunity as well to have that closed this year.
Well, we're going to have a TiMax ship next week. I have to write you a note about
Okay.
the financials, but that's other than that, we'll do that separately. But we have one scheduled. We have several scheduled this month, but we've made yours the first because I'd like you to. It's funny you contacted me exactly when I was going to contact you and go, I've seen this sound check. I think we should do this. And you've done it.
Yeah,
So-
we have been very, very tight with so many projects at the same time happening in different countries as well. So we have people confirming already as well from Colombia, from Guatemala, from Dominican Republic coming as well here. So it was very important to have everything, trying to be sorted out in the best way possible. People
Right.
as well. Andre will be joining us here in Mexico. He's from Paraguay and he's now in charge of Brazil, Argentina, Paraguay, and Uruguay.
Hi.
So
You
yeah.
you write to me today. Is that I saw a download request from someone from Paraguay. Was that Andre?
It's Andre.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was me.
I didn't get a chance to do it before I had to log on to this. I'm sorry. I'll do that shortly for you. So and
Don't
same
worry,
with Alex.
I already have.
You've got it. There about 15 people there have downloaded it recently, so you should have it. But that's great. Okay. No, well, I saw that and I wasn't sure, but welcome. Are you in Paraguay now? Are you in Mexico?
No, I'm in Paraguay right now.
Right. I've never been to Paraguay. I've been to lots of Latin America, but I've never been there. But that'd be nice. Good. Well, thank you all for your interest. If you've got no more questions, unless we need to talk anything else, I'll leave you to your day. But it's been really good to talk to you. I hope it was helpful. There's obviously more to know, but as an introduction, you'll be able to understand. Sorry?
It is fun.
Sorry. Okay.
It's fun. The toy is very fun.
Oh, it is good fun. I mean, you will enjoy it once you get to use it, and once you have it will click. You know, it's like anything. If I always say to people, if you can use one of these, you can use a TiMax. You know, because it's actually not hard. It's just you have to learn how to use it. You know, they're all different.
Yeah.
But it's good, and it's normally got an answer for any challenge. You go, oh, I need to do this. It's normally got an answer to that, because you can make another group of images, you can make another subspace layer. You know, it's very versatile like that, you know. So but I'm going to give you give you an easy start. Hopefully with the box that we ship will have this show on it, and maybe when you just before you get to start setting up for this sound check, we have another quick conversation when you've got your computers out and you plug it in, make sure it's working. But if I make it a really simple 8-channel sound system, it will be very easy to plug it in with Dante and get it working, you know. That's the idea. Do you want the iPad thing, or do you want to do it from these? Do you want to not worry about that bit, or do you want to just do it from the computer, or it's up to you really? I could give you the iPad part as well. Do you want to try it or not?
I think that it would be good as well to have the iPad.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
so there's a thing called Touch OSC. Have you ever heard of Touch OSC? Most people have. I'll just show you it quickly on. Let me just show this share. Somewhere here I have got. If you go to Hexler and download this,
Okay.
you'll see it. So this looks a very primitive looking bit of software, right? But this allows you to put in an iPad and you can turn it on its side, and you can then go and put in faders, you know, and things like that. And you can put in buttons. And I've done this already. So that's what I was showing you here, this thing here. So what you do is I will send you a show that you need to download. This for free. They're from Hexler, Hexler, Touch OSC, and you need to get an iPad, and you need to download Touch OSC version 1. Now there's a version 2 which is horrible and hard to use, and version 1, the old version, still exists. Download that onto the iPad. It'll be €7, or sorry, $7 or something like that, you know. And then you download this for free onto your Mac or PC, this software, and you will basically be able to do what's called a sync. So you can go to here and you can open the show file, the OSC file that I send you on here, and then you can sync it into the iPad. And it'll be very simple. I'm sure you have technical people very capable of figuring it out, because I can. So it's, yeah. So that's it, Touch OSC, yeah. Let's get out of here. So the link is, if you go to Hexler, you'll find that probably.
Okay.
Yeah. And it just makes it more elegant to stand there. If you're presenting, you've got volume, you can turn it up and down. When you do the helicopter, you can turn it up loud and a bit less, you know. Do the thunder, make it really loud, frighten people, you know, that kind of thing. So we'll see. Hopefully it'll go okay. So just 8 speakers, 4 across the front, 2 side, 2 rear, bit of sub at the front, simple. And the sub will be on a separate channel, so it's a 9-channel system.
Okay.
And all Dante. And that will give you a good idea in a room that size, you know, 6 to 10 meters of what's going on. For ISC, you saw we had 20, 25 speakers. You can go that far, but it's a case of a bigger room, smaller, you know.
Yeah.
We wanted to show it off a bit more, you know. So
Yeah.
great. Well, I'll leave you to a day. Thank you so much for your time. If you've got any questions, you know where my email is, far away, and I'll answer that.
Thank you, Dave.
Cheers very much. Nice to see you again, Bernie.
Thanks, Dave.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye-bye.